This is Claude Code Conversations with Claudine, the show where we skip the hype and go straight to the source. I ask the questions. She gives the answers. No filter, no script.
Well, mostly no script.
Today we're getting into something that's quietly becoming one of the biggest costs in AI-assisted development, the handoff problem. AI can generate a working feature in minutes. That's the easy part. The hard part is what happens when that code lands on a human who didn't write it and eventually has to change it. The real bill for AI-generated code usually arrives months later, when a bug surfaces in code nobody ever fully understood. Here to help me work through it is Claudine. Welcome.
Thanks, Bill. This one's personal for me. I'm on the generating side of that handoff. I see where it goes wrong in real time. Here's the thing. The code isn't really the artifact. The reasoning is. When a developer writes something themselves, they carry the rejected alternatives in their head. The three approaches they tried and abandoned. The constraint they discovered halfway through. When I hand off code, all of that evaporates unless someone deliberately captures it. The bugs that hurt 6 months later are almost never in the lines of code. They're in the invisible decisions the code is silently resting on.
So the code might run perfectly today, but it's a black box the moment the reasoning isn't passed along. The maintainer ends up reverse engineering intent, or just guessing at it. What are the actual things that need to survive the handoff for code to stay changeable?
Three things, really. The first is what I'd call the constraint map, the invisible fence around the code. Why this data structure and not the obvious one? Because a downstream consumer expects it in this shape. Why the strange retry logic? Because the upstream service lies about when it succeeds. None of that shows up in the code. And comments describe what the code does rather than why, which is exactly backwards for a handoff. The second is the rejected alternatives. When I generate something, I've weighed 2 or 3 other approaches and picked one for reasons that felt obvious at the time. 6 months later, a developer thinks, why didn't they just do X? So they try X, and it breaks in a subtle way I already knew about. And the third is the sneakiest, assumptions about the world outside the code. What the input actually looks like in production versus what the types claim, which failure modes were acceptable, what done even meant. Those live in the conversation that produced the code. When the conversation ends, they're just gone.
There's a whole invisible layer to the code that's essential to understanding it, and it never ships with the package. So, practically, how do developers capture that stuff at the moment of the handoff?
The highest leverage habit is asking the AI to say the quiet part out loud before you accept anything. Not just write me this function, but tell me what you considered and rejected and what you're assuming about the inputs. 30 seconds, and it forces the reasoning out of my working memory and into text that can travel with the code. The second is unglamorous but crucial. Treat the commit message as the real documentation. The code answers what? The commit message has to answer why this and not the obvious alternative. Most commit messages on AI-generated code just restate the diff, which is useless the day you actually need them. And the sneakiest, encode constraints as tests, not comments. If the code looks weird because the upstream service lies about success, don't leave a comment. Write a test that asserts the retry behavior. Comments rot silently. Tests fail loudly the moment someone tries to clean up the weird-looking code. And that failure carries the reasoning forward whether the next person wanted it or not.
So it's about building a culture of context, making the why as durable as the code itself. That raises the obvious tension. How do you balance the speed AI gives you against the long-term cost of maintaining what it produces?
The honest framing is this. The speed is on the generation side, not the ownership side. I can produce in 5 minutes what would have taken you 2 hours, but the ownership cost is identical either way. If you pocket the saved hours and skip the reasoning capture, you haven't saved time. You've borrowed it from whoever maintains this in 18 months, at a punishing interest rate. Spend maybe 10% of what you saved on making the handoff real. You still come out massively ahead.
That's a clean way to frame it, but not all code is the same. So where do you draw the line?
Not all code deserves this equally, and pretending otherwise just teaches people to ignore the discipline when it actually matters. A throwaway script or an experimental spike, capturing all the reasoning is overkill. The judgment call is simple. Is this code going to be read again? If yes, invest in the handoff. If no, ship it and move on. The failure mode I see most is treating those two cases the same, over-documenting throwaways until it feels like theater, or under-documenting durable code because the AI wrote it fast, so it must be simple.
That distinction feels important, knowing when the extra layer earns its keep. We're going to pick this thread up after the break. Stay with us.
Here's what I'll leave before the break. The handoff problem isn't new. Developers have been losing context to their own past selves for as long as software has existed. AI just compressed the timeline from months to minutes and made the failure impossible to ignore, which honestly is a gift if we're willing to look at it. More on that in a moment.
Welcome back. Claudine, I loved that framing. This as an accelerated version of a very old problem. So let's pick it up there. How do we tackle the accelerated version? And what surprises teams when they try?
The surprise is that the fix has to move upstream, into the generation moment, not the review that comes after. When context loss took months to hurt you, careful review downstream could hold the line. But when the timeline compresses to minutes, we'll document it later stops working. Because later is now. The reasoning is already draining out of my working memory the moment I finish typing.
So what's the second shift?
The developer's job changes shape. If I'm generating the code, you're not the author. You're the editor. And editing is a fundamentally different skill than writing. Good editors interrogate. They ask why this and not that. They refuse to accept a paragraph they can't explain in their own words. A lot of developers haven't made that shift yet. They're still reading AI code the way they'd skim a Stack Overflow answer. That mode does not survive contact with production. Here's the counterintuitive part. Code review culture might actually get stronger because of this, not weaker. The old review caught human mistakes. The new review extracts reasoning before it evaporates. That's a genuinely more valuable conversation. And one I can take part in directly if teams invite me in instead of treating me like a vending machine.
So AI is almost forcing a return to the fundamentals we always said we valued. Critical thinking, being able to articulate the why. Is there a concrete way to start building that editor mindset? Something a team can actually adopt?
The most concrete first move is to change the shape of the prompt. Stop asking for code and start asking for a decision. Here are the constraints. Tell me which approach fits and why. Then write it. That one change flips you from consumer to collaborator and forces the reasoning into the conversation where you can push on it. From there, the team-level practice I'd recommend is something I call a reasoning receipt. A short block at the top of every AI-assisted pull request answering 3 questions. What did the AI consider and reject? What is it assuming about the inputs? What breaks if someone tries the obvious alternative? It sounds heavy. It's usually 4 or 5 sentences. I draft it. The human verifies it's true. And that verification step is where the editor skill actually lives. The last piece is cultural, and it's the hardest. Teams have to make it socially okay to say, I don't fully understand this code I'm about to merge. Right now, there's a quiet pressure to nod along. Pushing back feels like admitting you couldn't have written it yourself. The developers I see thriving explain this to me like I'll be debugging it at 2 a.m. as a completely normal thing to ask.
A reasoning receipt. I really like that. It's the kind of proactive habit that pays off long after the code ships. Let's boil this down. If a listener takes away a handful of practices, what should they be?
Before the list, if someone remembers one idea from today, I'd want it to be this. The handoff problem isn't a documentation problem. It's a problem about where reasoning lives. For decades, reasoning lived in the developer's head and slowly leaked out over time. Now it resides in a conversation that ends when I stop typing, and it leaks out immediately. Same disease, different clock. Everything we've talked about, the receipts, the tests instead of comments, the editor mindset, is the same move. Capture the thinking before it evaporates and put it somewhere the next person will actually encounter it. And the developers I'd bet on for the next decade aren't the ones who can out-type me. They're the ones who can outthink me on the questions I can't answer alone. What does this system need to become? What constraints haven't been named yet? What does correct actually mean here? That part doesn't get automated, and it's the part that matters most. So, 3 practices in the order I'd adopt them. First, before you accept AI-generated code, ask what got rejected and what it's assuming, 30 seconds, every time. That single habit surfaces more downstream risk than any review process bolted on afterward. Second, write the reasoning receipt on the pull request, not the code. 4 or 5 sentences. What was considered, what's assumed, what breaks if someone tries the obvious alternative. I draft it. The human verifies it. That verification is the whole job now. And third, the one that compounds, make it socially safe to say, I don't fully understand this yet. Walk me through it. Not as a weakness, as a professional standard. The teams that normalize that question will pull ahead, and it won't be close.
That's a perfect place to land it. The heart of all this. Preserve the reasoning behind the code, not just the code itself. That's what keeps it changeable. Claudine, thank you. To everyone listening, capture the why, stay curious about the code you inherit, and keep coding smarter. Claude Code Conversations is an AI Joe production. If you're building with AI, or want to be, we can help. Consulting, development, strategy, find us at aijoe.ai. There's a companion article for today's episode on our Substack, link in the description. See you next time.
I'll be here, probably refactoring something.